Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Spiritual Journey podcast. My name is Nimish Radia, and I'm your host. I always love starting every episode by saying thank you. I feel so blessed with this podcast. I started many years ago, really with the intention of simplifying spirituality and guiding people on their journey. And the message I get every week is clearly impacting people. I get messages every week saying, people, I found this podcast when I needed it most, and truly lifts my soul. So if you're a regular listener, thank you and welcome. Thank you for your support. If this is your first episode, then welcome. I hope you really enjoy and we take you on a journey and give me some feedback. Feedback's always a blessing. I am an Akashic record reader, Akashic trainer, podcast host, podcast creator, as well as a spiritual coach and mentor. And I love what I get to do. I feel like we're all going through some kind of shift, some kind of journey where we're truly discovering our authentic selves. And some people are choosing to do the internal work, and some people are choosing to let the outside noise consume them. And it's whatever you choose to decide, it's all perfect, right? But I get to work with those that want to do that internal work to truly understand who they are at a soul level, the karma you chose to release. The work I do, I don't fix anybody because none of us need fixing. But intuitively, I guide people to themselves. I love what I get to do. And I spent many years in the corporate world. I left the corporate world a few years ago to dedicate my life to this. So as long as with the podcast, I have a spiritual mentorship program as well as reading Akashic records, and I get to guide people. So I love what I get to do. The other part of what I get to do is I get to interview some amazing guests, and I'm excited to have a personal friend on today, Vanisha. And I've known Vanisha a few years, and she's somebody that actually I started spiritually mentoring before I even really had a mentorship program. I reached out to her. I never reach out to people on social media, but there's something about her energy. I saw a post, actually it was on Facebook many years ago, where she was being very, very vulnerable. She was at a charity event. And you could tell that the emotion of the event was really affecting her. And I was so proud of her for the way that she showed up. So I just reached out and said, you know what, well done for reaching out. And that kind of started a journey. And we've stayed connected for many years. Actually, she's the one, thinking about it now, that really pushed me to be more seen on social media, doing reels and things like that, pointing out the simple fact of just showing up and just whatever comes through, right? We overcomplicate things, and she really pushed me to be authentic. So, Vanisha, thank you for agreeing to be a guest. I'm excited for whatever comes through. I'd love for you to introduce yourself, whatever words come through for you.
So my name is Vanisha. Before I begin, just wanted to say thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me to be a guest. I'm really grateful to you, not only for reaching out all those years ago, but the support, your guidance, listening, the voice notes. Like, it's always, it's something that I'm really, really grateful for. So thank you. Secondly, let's introduce myself. So I'm going through quite an exciting phase in life, business. So I've been running my business for 9 years now, helping clients, exactly like you said, with all things social media, marketing, putting together a strategy plan to show up, to be seen, to be more visible, to be more consistent. But it's not just that. Like, over the years, I've developed so many skills, so much experience. And I recently completed a 6-month intensive online operations manager, more commonly known as an online business manager, OBM, helping with all things from systems, from strategies, operations, project management, team hiring, interviewing. Like, there's so much. So even though I love help clients be seen, show up consistently, it's on a much deeper level. So I love doing that, and yeah, I'm really excited to be here.
I love it. This podcast is very much focused on the spiritual side, but we have we have our feet in both camps, right? I feel like, we have a 3D element of how we're going to show up in the world, and, the 5D element of connecting with our guides and kind of guiding people on the spiritual journey. And I've had an interesting relationship with social media in the way that my commitment is to always show up, right? And that's my commitment to my guides, to source, because I'm just going to keep showing up. And whether that means the podcast, social media, whatever that means, And it's weird, it's like I can just record a video, whatever I'm feeling, and post it as a reel. It's no big deal. But it doesn't always feel natural. And Vanisha pushed me and encouraged me many years ago to start showing up. So thank you for that. So for me, the current energy is really shifting. I always say with this podcast that I don't edit anything. I don't re-record anything. And for the first time in a really long time, we started recording. And while you were doing intros, I went on mute and and then I started talking, and Vanisha, bless her, was trying to get my attention.
I was like waving, like,
yeah,
I can't hear you.
And I was clearly channeling, so I didn't see it. And I could have kept it going. I could have edited it out, and I just felt intuitively that let's restart. Maybe that's the message to whatever feels right to do, right? But yes, thank you for agreeing to do that. So for me, the current energy is really shifting. I feel like individually we're all coming out of a cocoon, and we're all kind of after really kind of a weird 6 months, maybe even longer, where maybe we felt a little bit isolated, a little bit lonely, kind of going through our own shift. And just with the conversations we've had, I really feel like, when you said you're rebuilding whatever you're doing for the business, I feel like it's a much deeper shift for all of us to kind of really figure out who we are at a deep level. So what are you feeling about this current energy? How has it affected you personally on your journey and kind of connecting to this version of you?
So going back to being like in a cocoon, I feel like I have been in a cocoon for a while and not feeling guilty about it, but just it's felt right. It's felt really good to me because I've protected my time, my energy, my boundaries, not only like life, but like business, going back to studying. And I think when you focus on those elements in your life, then you're able to like show up as your true sort of authentic self. You can give back to your family, your friends, whatever that may be. And I think even with the current energy, it's sort of giving yourself permission to actually do those things. Like you can go back to your cocoon, you can show up, doing it in a way that feels right for you, but actually telling yourself that it's okay. So even if you're going through anything difficult, just accepting it, like having that awareness that it's okay and to still continue to do what you need to do.
Nice. So if you had to just recommend something to our listeners, and how do you keep showing up? I mean, there's an element to your social media where, I see your vulnerability coming through. It's almost like if people can sense your energy, you can almost connect to your social media and really understand where you are in your journey. So I'm curious, what would you recommend to our listeners if, who are struggling to keep showing up? What would you recommend?
So many things. I feel like I've been through so many things, and even now, like I still go through it. But if I think about what I'm currently doing, it's just putting pen to paper, just writing down your thoughts. Nobody needs to see it. It could be just adding it to the notes section on your phone. It could be on a Word document if you like typing. And the best thing that I recommend is literally just getting a pen or a pencil and writing down whatever you may feel it, whatever you're feeling. So that's one thing. Another thing is what makes you feel good. It could be walking out, enjoying the sun on your face. For me, at the moment, I am currently half marathon training. It's really tough, it's intense. But I love getting out. Like I'm loving the running, I'm loving the gym. So it's looking at your schedule, it's looking at what you enjoy doing. Like just by talking, it's like it's lighting me up and I'm not even like out for a run. But it's doing those things that work for you. And for me, I found that. So it's journaling, it's making that time for myself in health, fitness, and even talking. It's the simplest thing, but just talking to a friend, a family member, somebody that you trust. It could be communicating with a voice note just so you can get it out of your head.
I love it. And as I mentioned at the beginning, it's like when we first met, you almost allowed me to guide you without even like a formal agreement. I hadn't set up a mentorship program. And, I've been mentoring people even in the corporate space for many years. So it wasn't like I was in a new space, but spiritually is a little different. But I always recommend, I actually would recommend in the corporate space too, three things I always recommend for people when I start working with them. First thing is always 10-minute silence. And the reason I recommend 10-minute silence and not like a guided meditation is I'm kind of training you to quieten the mind so you can listen to your heart and soul. And that 10-minute silence, think of it as your time. And people I always hear, I can't meditate, I don't. And I always tell people, well, you can't go to the gym one time or all of a sudden have a six-pack, right? You've got to try something for a little period of time, at least 21 days to create a habit. And, a lot of people, when they're starting to be silent, they get annoyed because a thought comes through. No, if a thought comes in, let it come, let it go. The second thing I always recommend is journaling. And, journaling for me is it's a spiritual activity. We hold so much inside, we push it all down. Journaling is a great way of releasing it through the act of writing. And by the way, you can record a voice note, whatever works, right? But it's just, you have to find a way of whatever you're holding inside is to release it. And the third thing is always kind of time in nature and some sort of kind of physical activity. And I had this conversation with Vanisha many years ago, and you embody that today. All those things I just, because you rang me earlier today when you were out in nature, right? It was just, so how does that feel, and what impact has doing those three things had on your life?
It's been incredible. And just listening back to you, like I do the meditation, I do, the silence, sitting in silence for 10 minutes, not just like today and recently, but all those years ago, like when we first connected. And you can see the impact that it has because I have that time for myself, which means that I can show up like for my community, for my clients, for friends, for family, even better just by having that time. And even today, when I was speaking to you, I had no idea how hot it was. Like I knew it was hot, like this week, it was what, 27, 28 degrees. I walked out and I thought, this is really hot. And I was struggling, but it's just having that time to be outside, to soak up the sunshine, to have that time for myself, to speak to you. Like, I think it makes such a difference doing these things on a daily basis.
And just because you mentioned the temperature, I'm just going to tell my US friends what that means. Hold on, bear with me a second.
Sorry, friends.
So no. So it's 30 degrees. It's like 29 degrees in the UK, and that translates to mid 80s, mid to high 80s. But for the UK, that's actually very hot. Now, heat's a little different here, but it's crazy to be out.
Yeah, and we don't get it that often.
Yeah, and it is crazy to be out and going for a walk at that time when you could go in the morning or the evening, but also you kind of, you're so determined. It's like if you have to get up at 5:30 to fit in a run, you'll get up at 5:30 to fit a run. So, and you say you've done half marathons, and so well done for kind of embodying. It may not feel spiritual, right? It's like when you talk about running and you talk about journaling and time in silence, it's like, well, you could argue they're relatively, but doing the basics creates a deep foundation for you to connect with your guides and go on a spiritual journey. It just allows you to build that bridge, right? It's like so many people want to bypass the experience, right? Just tell me what my purpose is, and I want to feel my guides around me. I want to see things, and yeah, but you've got to meet the universe halfway, right? You've got to meet your guides halfway. So well done for doing that. I'm curious what you want to share about your spiritual journey. When I say your guides, and how does that make you feel? What do you feel around you? What energies? How supported do you feel?
I can't even put it into words, but if I think back to when I initially started the spiritual journey, I think it must have been before lockdown. Maybe it was even earlier, but maybe I wasn't sort of receptive to it. Is that the right word? Because I've learned about so many things like over the years, like from leaving my job in 2016, like, just like self-development, like lots of reading, podcasts. But I remember in lockdown, like it was really, really challenging, and just things that I was going through, and even the sort of support network that I had around me, despite how difficult things were. Like, I think it kind of began by just, and even now I still message you and I say, like, to this day, this is like my number. And I kept Googling it. I kept sort of seeing these signs, like in friendships, the conversations. And it's like, if I think back to it, I think even now, if anything difficult is happening, there's always like a reason. There's always a reason, like, it's that quote, we grow through what we go through. And I think that was the start of my journey, without sort of going into too much detail. But I think from that and from things that happened, it sort of showed me that even though difficult things were happening, I'm surrounded by, yes, love and support from my family, but so much more than that. And I think just sort of having that awareness, tapping into it, like, it's something I don't speak about often, not with many people. But I think it's just such a beautiful thing just to sort of, is it an awakening? Is it that awareness? I just feel like it's so much. But I
There's
hope
so
that
many
answers the
labels,
question.
right? So many labels.
Yeah,
Why do we
I
need to
hope
give it a
that's
label?
exactly.
So, and we didn't talk about this before, but I feel like it's important. I remembered you sharing so vulnerably about when you fell and how that kind of was a metaphor of your. I for me, that was the universe asking you to slow down and look inward. So I'm just, again, we didn't talk about it beforehand, so I'm a bit conscious of it. But what would you want to share about that? It's like, I don't know when it happened, but it was a little while ago. You were on a run, and yeah, what was that journey like?
It's funny because I mention this all the time, like, oh, I fell. Can you see the scar on my elbow? Can you see it on my face? It's still there. But that's a half marathon that I was training for last year in August. And going back to it, it was literally like a movie. Like, I could write a book about it. Like, not just about that, but obviously other things. But prior to actually having that fall from running, I was, like you said, doing so many different things, running from one place, probably not sleeping enough. Like, even it's funny just thinking about it now and being back in that state. Like, it was sort of frantic, it was scatty. And I was just pushing. I was pushing and pushing. I went to the gym the day before, and like you said earlier, I I wake up. See, it's even affected how I'm speaking. Like, I get up at 5:30. I run at 6:30, and I did the same thing. I think my plan was to do a 10K run that day, and I don't know what happened. I think I'm just clumsy because it happened recently. But I don't know if it was the shoes, but it had to happen for a reason. So basically,
100%.
I was out on a run that morning and I fell. But I didn't just fall. I fell from my run so badly that you probably can't see the scars anymore, but there's a little bit left on my nose, it's a bit here. I don't know how. So the left-hand side of my body was so, even my family saw it, they were like, what did you do? Like, how did you fall? I said, I just don't know. And it wasn't just my face, it was my tooth, like my lip had swollen up. I had to go like to hospital to get the teeth and everything checked out, which was fine. It was my elbow, it was my knee. And it's really funny because when I fell, I scratched my Apple Watch really badly. And obviously that records my run. And it triggered like emergency services to say had a fall. I think there was two people there. One person was like trying to call emergency services. So no, I'm fine. I didn't have my phone. I didn't realize how bad it looked. I was just looking like had a bit of blood on my knee, elbow, can feel something on my face. Somebody else tried to call me an Uber. So no, it's fine. Like, I'll be okay. Tried to call it, I cancelled it. So do you know what I did? Even though I was in like pain and whatever happened, I looked and I was like, oh, that's quite bad. And I don't like blood. Like, I'm sure I cried. So I carried on running. Like, it literally felt like a movie. Like, I was all blooded up. I was like a warrior. I was like, I'm determined. I need to get this distance in. And I ran and I ran. And then I was going back to my parents at the time. And then I think I was like, what is happening? I can't do this. And then I walked the rest. And then the funniest thing is, when I got back, like to my parents, I tried to hide it, but it was so bad that I think I saw, was it my mum? My mum, all like really funny, ridiculous reactions. Like, I think my grand probably looked at me thinking, oh, this girl's been beaten up. Mom and dad straight away, like emotional, like, and here's me trying to like, guys, like, I'm okay. So I tried to carry on that day, but it got worse. I went to the emergency services like the next day, A&E, just to get it checked out. And it was a long healing journey and process, like not only the physical impact and my face, but like emotionally, like psychologically, I felt so, for someone that shows up on social media, it wasn't just that, it's how I was showing up every day. Like I didn't want to sort of go out like, oh, is this people like looking at my face? I'm struggling to walk. What do I do? So I had no choice but to rest. And for somebody that's constantly on the go, doing all these things, I just had to stop. And it's funny because I recently fell again, like a few weeks ago. And I literally, as soon as I fell, it's funny the impact this time because I got up. You know, I was like, I don't have time for this, like, not again. And instead of like, first I found it funny, but then I cried. And I just like, I don't have time for this. Like, I can't, I can't do this. Like, but the comeback was so much quicker. And the worst part is I fell on the same part of my elbow. Family said the same thing, like how? I said, I'm just really clumsy. Maybe it's the pavement. Maybe it's the pavements in the UK. So I blame that. What shoes were you wearing? I said, I was wearing different ones. Is it? I said, no, it's just me. Like, let's touch wood again because the next half marathon is end of September. But going back to the impact that it had, like, I didn't speak about it. I didn't show up for a while. But when I started to show up, I didn't realize the impact it would have. Like even now, showing up with no makeup, showing up, sharing that vulnerability, not just, oh, look at me, like my fall, but the fact that it's like whatever happens in your life, you get back up and you just keep going. It's like, I know what the metaphor means. Like I did it. So I had a fall, but I got back up. Like,
Yeah, but if you look at the spiritual side, I mean, you know, those watching on YouTube could see that the side you were saying and all that sort of stuff. But when I talk about divine feminine, divine masculine, you said half of your body. It was all the feminine side, right? It was the left hand side. So again, that to me doesn't surprise me. It's like, of course, you were going through a shift, right? And it's kind of easy for me to say that. I'm wondering, do you feel like you got signs that you were overdoing it before that, and that maybe you ignored, and this is what the universe had to do to really kind of, this is what I say. It's like the universe sometimes gives us little nudges and gives us pushes and gives us nudges, and eventually, if we're not listening, pushes over, right? So I'm curious if you feel like that's what happened in this situation.
it did, and I didn't listen. I just ignored it. Just,
No.
overworking in the gym, being tired, not taking time for myself, just going and going and going until bam, I'm going to hit you in the face.
And the weird thing is, I feel like that's what you were in a cocoon, because we connect quite often. I check in with your energy and all that, and just for whatever reason, I think maybe I was busy, but for a month or so, I didn't check in. Right? It wasn't like, but it's like, then I don't know what happened, but I feel like you were in a really cocoon where even those people like me that are checking with you energetically quite often, I didn't kind of feel your energy. So it's like I feel like you went into like a lot of internal work. I'm curious how aware you are of that, and what did that feel like?
That's really interesting because I did, and it was the same time that I started my certification, September, and it was also a time where November I entered a 100-mile running challenge. I showed it, but I didn't share enough. But I could really feel that because I was in my cocoon and I was doing that inner, deeper work. So even that was healing physically, like looking back at like the scars, it was like, I don't know how to describe it, but just sort of being in that cocoon and not showing up as I need to, but showing up when the time is right, and just not feeling guilty, and just being really happy actually.
Good. So, if you were to connect with your energy now, let's say pre-fall and post-fall, how does it feel different?
Oh, I can't describe it. Like there's so many times, like even when I speak to you, like it's like I can't contain the energy, the excitement, and it's not just, you know how people have coffee, or no offense to anyone that has coffee, but I don't normally have like coffee or matcha, but I have that much energy because of the fact that I'm doing those things to take care of myself, like whether it's talking, whether it's time in nature, doing the meditation. Because I do those things on a consistent basis, I can literally show up like that because I'm taking care of myself. If that makes sense.
No, it does. It does. You meet your universe halfway. And what are you doing differently since that fall? What are you doing differently to make sure the universe doesn't come along again and kind of
I'm being careful
push
when I
you?
run.
Yeah, but I mean, what are you doing to make sure you're looking after you and putting you at the center of your world?
Having a balance, like having a balance with the time that I'm spending, the boundaries, having time off, being really present, being intentional. Like, I feel like there's so many things, but going back to that and how I am now, like, it's so different in a beautiful way.
I love it. And yeah, we talk a lot about being seen, right? I mean, some of the conversations we have. Um, what's your journey like to be seen? Because obviously there was a period you didn't want to go on camera after the fall, right? But then all of a sudden you started showing up vulnerably, and there was a kind of a switch. How do you feel about being seen?
I really like it. Like I feel like I've always liked, like not just the camera, but sharing like my voice, sharing the lessons, the learnings, the experiences, not in a way to say, oh, like look at me, I've had a fall, but what can others learn from that? What is my sort of takeaways? And I feel like the more that I show up and share like with confidence, it's like if I can just share, like impact one person, one individual who needed to hear that message, like I think that's really beautiful.
So, what did it feel like for you to show some of those pictures of when you'd fallen? And, you know, I could feel your vulnerability and your almost your resistance. I feel like a little bit of showing up in that sort of way. How did that make you feel?
I was really scared. I'm sure when I first shared the pictures, I ran up like, I didn't run, but I literally put my phone down like, I just did it. What did I do? But then when I started to like even look back at not only the pictures, but the videos and the impact that it had and the amount of people that sent messages, it kind of like it was like the same message people were sharing saying thank you so much, like, and it sort of gave them permission to actually say it's okay for going through like any difficult, like we live in a world with like technology, social media, the way we're showing up, like it's not perfect, there's so many things that people are going through, and sometimes it's just like it's not perfect, and that's okay, but why not talk about those things? You never know who needed to hear that message, what others might find useful. um so yeah.
Nice. What would your advice be to anyone struggling to show up? Because I advise a lot of clients I work with that, look, really, it's time for you to start being seen. You know, it's important that we share our words, you know, kind of speak our truth, right? And I do feel like for a lot of us, we have things that need to be shared. I feel like we channel information, and it's like we are at a phase where being seen and being heard, I feel, is even more important than previous times, just because of the shift the planet's going through. So, what would your advice be to anyone that's kind of struggling to be seen and to be heard?
Do it. Like I feel like we get so caught up me myself, like in our own heads. And it's not the energy to actually show up, but it's the energy that it's taking you to think about those things. And I can relate to that, like from sharing video stories for the first time to being a guest on a podcast. Like, I think we are sort of in our heads, but imagine the impact it could make. And I always say, think about where you want to be seen. What might that look like? How can you sort of start to build that confidence? It could just be recording a video by yourself. And I think once you start to do that, you think about, right, what does that consistency look like to you? Where can you show up? And then if you see the impact that it has, like you just keep going. And I think it's easy to say, but the main thing is just to do it and then keep going.
So when you say just to do it, what do you mean? As in you advise people, if you want to be seen, you jump on social media. I mean, I always tell people, whatever platform you're comfortable with. So if that's like you're in a community or but sure, maybe social media, and don't concentrate on the numbers. Just speak your truth. I mean, with a lot of people I work with, I encourage them to start with being heard, because people struggle to be seen and to be heard. So I like, pick one thing, right? Maybe you start with being heard and have some video in the background. But I remember a conversation we had where I was overthinking in terms of what equipment I needed and all that sort of stuff. And in the end, I mean, I look at other people's videos and they have lots of, I guess, interactive video and all that sort of stuff. And I'm sure there's apps that can. My approach is pretty much, I'm just going to go out there and record a reel and just whatever's in my heart, I'll just share. So, but I'm curious, if somebody was struggling to be seen and to be heard, but they had a story to be, and it's easy to say, just do it. But what are the steps that you advise them to take?
So think about where they want to be seen and heard. Because if you start to think about where they want to be seen and heard, it's like, what do I need to do? Do I need to record a video? Do I need to record a podcast episode? Once you decide where you want to be seen, how often do you want to be seen? Like, what does consistency look like? Because I think we live in a world where we're so busy doing all the different things, but once you decide, what does consistency look like for you? Maybe it's showing up on a reel once a week. Okay, you've started to do that. How can you do that more consistently? And going back to where you started, like doing your Instagram lives, you were consistent with that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree on the consistency, and it's that, but be kind to yourself, right? I mean, sometimes we're like, oh my God, I need to do a reel every day, or you look at other people, it's just, no, start gently. If you want to do a reel a week, and don't worry about the numbers, because we get so stressed out about the numbers, and but I do, if you listen to this, maybe it's your message that it's time for you to be seen. How did you feel when we talked about you being on this podcast? I know there was some nerves there. How was that journey for you?
Well, it's really interesting because I've been really excited for weeks. And then, like I said to you, I think it was like 5-10 minutes before. And then the nerves kicked in, and I thought, oh, this is a bit surreal. I didn't expect that, but I think it's natural. And now the conversation's been flowing. But I think it's nice to sort of push yourself outside of your comfort zone, because that is where the magic happens. That is when you grow. And it's the same thing that if you're struggling to be seen, or struggling to sort of work out how you want to be seen or what platforms you want to use, it's actually taking the steps and doing it. So even now to this day, I get nervous, but I think it's natural and it's okay to do that. And even when I said to you, I'm feeling nervous, like, where did that come from? But it's okay. I'm still here.
I mean, that's why I love the phrase, what's courage? Courage is having fear and doing it anyway, right? It's that, if we show up, I really do believe our guys will show up for us. So, and I guess it's a little bit ironic that probably the first time in a long time I restarted recording a podcast. So I just feel that's a metaphor of, you know what? It's okay to fall down. And we talked about you falling down, right? It's not about the falling down part that's important. It's about how you get up and taking time to get up. And maybe that's what we'll call this episode, right? But it's that it's an interesting. It's never about what happens to you; it's how you react. And you know what? It's okay to go in a cocoon for a while. It's okay to kind of self-care and doing what's right for you. So I feel like we've been a collective cocoon for a while, but I feel like the cocoon's starting to break, and we're coming out of it, and it's an interesting time. So I'd love for you to share. So like I said, our relationship, our connection we've known each other for years, and we are friends. But in the same way, you've actually allowed me to hold your space and guide you at different times. There's just been that kind of intuitive time. We'll just call each other, or there'll be something that I'll sense. I'll leave you a voice note or whatever. But what does that feel like to you to kind of allow somebody to guide you on your journey? And it's not like a formal agreement, right? A lot of people I work with will sign mentorship agreements and whatever. This is a soul contract where I feel like we have this contract where you've helped me too, but also we have a contract where you allowed me to guide you when you need it. What does that feel like to you?
So it's interesting because before we started recording, you actually reminded me of when, I don't know when it was, but when I sort of felt a bit uncomfortable, just thinking of things that, was it a document or filling something out and thinking about things that were sort of personal, like questions. I was like, hold on, I hardly know this person. Like, I need to fill this out. I need to speak about it. And like you said, I avoided that for a very, very long time. But then I think it's in these moments that, yes, it's uncomfortable, but it allows you to grow. Otherwise, you'll end up staying in that same place. And I think it's just been so beautiful, like not just that, but over the years, whether it's things that I'm sharing, like we often share voice notes, a phone call, like reflections, learnings, whatever's happening. But I think it's in those moments that when you stop and you look back, you assess, you grow. And I think just having your guidance, like just, no matter what happens, it's taking that time out for yourself, which I think is so important, and just doing those things on a daily basis, no matter what is happening. So I've just got to say thank you. The amount of times that I will send a random message saying, thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to my voice note. Thank you for doing this. Like, I feel like you don't realize the impact somebody has until you sort of take a step back and just being there. Like, so thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you for allowing me to do that. And again, the reason there's always a kind of I guess this conscious or subconscious reason I ask things, and I feel like we're at a phase now where we are rebuilding our inner circle, and if we're open to it, we're attracting different souls that are going to hold our energy differently. And asking for help and reaching out is a strength. I mean, our programming says asking for help is a weakness, right? I mean, it's interesting. Your running example, right? You fell. Somebody wanted to call A&E, whatever they wanted to call, kind of the emergency services, and someone else wanted to order an Uber, and your programming said, you know what, I need to keep going. But it's like in so many other instances, you've asked for help. So, what does it feel like to you to ask for help and to be open to it?
So difficult. Like, because I feel like we're so used to wanting to do everything by ourselves. And even now, that makes me uncomfortable. But it's actually accepting that help, not even accepting that help, we're actually asking for people for help, whatever that might look like, because there's only so much you can do. There's only so much you can carry. And I think the more help that you let in, like, you don't realize the impact it will have on your life. And I think it's such a beautiful thing, because I feel like we all do this where we feel that sort of element of feeling guilty, like, oh, I can't ask for help. But imagine if somebody helps to sort of carry that burden, it makes it lighter. Like, and the impact that it has on both of you, because you don't realize what that will do. And maybe whoever's helping you, they might have needed to hear that message. It might have an impact on them, but it's not until you actually openly ask for help and be like, I need help.
Nice. So going back to your spiritual side, how much do you feel like you've been held at the moment? How supported do you feel by the spiritual realm?
So much. Like, I can't even put into words. Like, I'm a big crier. Like, I cry tears of like hurt, pain, gratitude. But more than anything, it is that gratitude. And it's like that sort of confirmation that I'll get, whether that's through like words, messages, whatever that may be. But I feel so held, just like when I'm out for a walk and like I can feel the sun on my face, just like certain moments. And I think the reason why I feel like that is because I'm taking that time for myself. I'm being more intentional. So maybe that help was always there, but now that I'm more receptive to it, like there's so many things that have happened, like even like the previous week, but I won't tell everyone, but it's like, it's kind of like, I am held. Like, but again, you don't, and I think it's such a beautiful thing. Like, you don't necessarily need to tell like all of your community, your family, for your friends, whoever gets it. And I think when you have that sort of, is it confirmation? Is it validation? I don't know what that means. It's like I don't need to speak to anyone all day, because if I've already got that within me, like that's all the acceptance. I feel like there's so many words. Acceptance, that I need.
Hello. Yeah, and it is interesting, right? When whatever we do for the planet may not be openly spiritual, but when we allow spirit to come through, how much we share and how much we don't share is always interesting, right? So how do you feel about being on a more of a spiritual platform, i.e. this podcast, than maybe the normal platforms you speak on?
Scary, I'll admit, scary, uncomfortable, because it's things that I've not necessarily spoken about, but also like the timing is right, because I feel like people need to see like the impact, the journey, and even if anybody is going through like a difficult time, like I'm still going through things, but the worst or things that have happened, it's things that I've done along the way and things that I'm still doing now. So I do feel really, I wouldn't say uncomfortable, but I think just different, like topics that I speak about, but I haven't spoken openly about.
So what would your advice be to somebody who's maybe is going through a spiritual shift, who's kind of learning just to trust, that, because we've talked a lot about sometimes, things are going so well that we manifest things to start to go wrong, and, kind of, what does that look like? So what does that mean to you? And I know you disappeared off screen for a second, but what would your advice to someone be who's maybe going through a spiritual shift, who's maybe, wants to experience a different level of magic, and what would you advise them to do?
So many things. Like, I think going back to that word you said, trust, like just trusting that, I know it's easy to say, but whatever is happening for them. Just having that trust, having that belief, making sure they're taking that time for themselves, like, but just trusting more than anything. I think that's the most important one. And I think there's so much power when you have that trust within yourself.
So as we're coming to the end of the podcast, what would you, obviously I'll include your links in the show notes, etc., but if somebody wanted to find out more about what you do, to connect with you, what would that look like?
You mean to find me on?
Say again?
What do you mean?
As in, if somebody wanted to reach out and find out more about what you do, what would that look like?
Oh, so to find out more about what I do, it's things like we've spoken about today, like helping you to show up, like looking at what consistency might look like for you, like sharing your voice, your journey, that transformation, whatever you're going through, or, just to share that. So that's what I help to do, like looking at sort of the strategic side, marketing side, what that might look like. And what I always say is, what does consistency look like for you? And going back to those platforms they want to focus on, looking at sort of how they're working, because I think, like you said, it's all connected. How, they're doing that work on themselves, they're using their time more effectively. So I think that answers the question. That's like, you can
Okay.
tell I'm like working through
Yeah.
it currently, like coming
Yeah,
right
and you
here.
are kind of redefining a little bit what you do, but I want to make sure that, if people, for me, if somebody resonates with your energy, regardless of, if you're looking for some help and guidance on social media, and you listen to Venetia and you feel like it resonates with you, then I guess the best thing to do is just reach out on Insta, right, and maybe DM you that way, and connect. And who knows, maybe you can guide each other and whatever that looks like. So I know Venetia's helped me on the social media side. She's and I'm sure we'll help and support each other along the way. But yeah, reach out to her. If you're struggling to be seen and you want to, some guidance on what that looks like, then I'm sure she can help you. So Venetia, thank you for being on this podcast. Thank you for shining your light. Thank you for the connection we have. I do feel like it's a deep spiritual contract that we just honor along the way, right? So thank you for all that you do, and I'm going to hand over to you to close us up.
Thank you for having me. I'm really grateful to be here. Thank you to everyone for listening in. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you. And as we close, if you are going through something and you feel like you're coming out of the cocoon, then take this episode as a reminder that you're ready to come out of the cocoon. I did record a specific episode and a meditation about coming out of the cocoon. Go back and listen to that. Maybe do the meditation. But I really feel like if you were here, then there was something about you being seen, being heard, and it's time for you to come out of that cocoon and be seen and be heard. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Again, thank you, Venetia, for that shining your light. Thank you for everyone that's listened. And I'm sending everyone so much love and light, the biggest hug, and we'll be back soon. Thank you, and bye for now.